The Invaders. Captain, our sensors indicate the local atmosphere is compatible with the air we breathe at home. So I ask permission to leave the mother ship and make contact. The captain appeared to consider, although her ultimate answer was obvious. Very well, Spinks, but don't put yourself at risk, if possible. Well, the question of risk ultimately lies with them, doesn't it, Captain? Spinks was glad to leave the cramped confines of the mother ship and to feel the soft, warm sand beneath his feet. The air was warm, too, and sultry, just like the air back home. Home. Home was a dying planet, and now in their quest for a new world, a new home, they had arrived here, a rich world with a compatible atmosphere and a wealth of natural resources, but a world which was, unfortunately, already inhabited. Inhabited by huge, primitive, bipedal entities which appeared to be prone to the crudest forms of violence. And so the question of the moment was, how would they react to the arrival of newcomers, the arrival of the crew of the expeditionary craft? Well, Spinks was about to find out. Across the sand, Spinks could see a number of large burning fires, indicating an encampment of the bipeds. What would they do when they saw him? React with their usual violence? Probably. But there really was only one way to find out. Spinks was unarmed. He reckoned it would help him get away quicker, if it came to that. He approached the encampment as quietly as possible, keeping to the shadows until the smell hit him. The smell, meat, cooked meat. Instinctively his nostrils flared and his mouth began to water. Fresh cooked meat. Fresh cooked meat after months of eating dried space rations. Spinks felt his head start to swim, and then the biped grabbed him. Spinks attempted to struggle and somehow wiggle free from the arms that held him, but it was impossible. Impossible. The biped, which was one of the smaller ones, a child perhaps, the biped was too strong. And so he quit struggling and resigned himself to fate, resigned himself to death. The biped held Spinks to a bare, sweaty, and rather odorous chest. Spinks felt a rumbling and heard a loud braying noise, which he realized was the thing laughing. Over the next few minutes, Spinks was alternately pummeled and caressed. He forced himself not to go into defensive mode, forced himself to relax, and confined his reaction to a gentle murmur which he hoped would calm the biped. It didn't really work. The biped suddenly began to run, and to his horror, Spinks realized it was running towards a large campfire. Was it going to throw him on the fire? Once more, Spinks resigned himself to his imminent immolation. But instead, the young biped knelt down next to a platter bearing hunks of warm meat. Warm, cooked meat. Once more, Spinks' mouth began to water, and his stomach began to growl. But he was in luck. The young biped took a stick and with the sharp end speared a piece of the cooked meat and held it out to Spinks. He didn't hesitate. Didn't hesitate at all. But Spinks had hardly swallowed the tasty morsel when he found himself seized by another pair of arms, longer arms, stronger arms. This biped was much larger and had a more powerful scent. He mauled his captive, and again Spinks willed himself to go limp, while resigning himself to death. But then the smaller biped grabbed one of his legs, and he felt he was being torn apart. So without thinking, he lashed out, forcing the larger one to drop him. Spinks ran off into the darkness, planning on a mad dash to the safety of the ship, when something landed in the sand beside him. A piece of cooked meat. Spinks's brain told him to run, but his stomach said, "Stop! Blame too many months of dried space rations." Spinks gobbled it up like an animal, then took a quick look over his shoulder to see if the bipeds were chasing him. But what he saw amazed him. A mob of bipeds stood around the fire, all of them staring at him. They were gesticulating and making loud, horrid noises. Horrid, but Spinks was sure they weren't meant to be threatening. Some were holding out pieces of meat on the end of sharp sticks or knives, while a few tossed tasty morsels his way. Were they trying to lure him back? Lure him back so they could entrap him, even kill him? Or did they have friendly intentions? Spinks was both hungry and scared. He didn't want to die, but he knew he had to learn the biped's intentions, even if it meant sacrificing himself. And so he went back. The small biped he had initially encountered ran forward and seized him and held him tight. But the pair found themselves quickly surrounded by the others, all of whom wanted to touch Spinks, and hold him. Spinks found himself being passed from hand to hand, and most of the hands were gentle, with fingers bearing tender victuals. Spinks found himself eating too much. His head began to get heavy. It was too much excitement. Spinks awoke to find himself lying next to the young biped, who was asleep and making loud, raucous noises, which Spinks realized were snores. Spinks gently slipped away and slipped through the darkness, heading for the mothership. "I think this might work," he said to himself. "I think this might work. But the rest of the crew will have to expose themselves to the dangers of contact as well." In the morning, the 30-member crew returned to the encampment and to the sound of a wailing child. Spinks had obviously been missed. A bright, blazing orb, a burning reddish orange, suddenly appeared over the rim of the world and totally illuminated the crew in its blazing hot rays. Squinting in the intense light, the crew could see a host of bipeds regarding them with what? They did appear to be smiling, and then suddenly they burst into a run and descended upon the crew. Spinks shut his eyes. This was the moment of truth. The bipeds seized the crew members and began to caress them. 3 days and 3 nights later, Spinks managed to slink away from the sleeping encampment and made his way back to the mother ship, where the captain anxiously awaited his report. After entering the vessel and making obeisance to his commander, Spinks said, "Captain, we have found our objective." "And will we be able to conquer them?" the captain purred in her quiet voice. "Without resorting to force or violence," Spinks answered firmly. "They will serve us and do our bidding willingly, feed and protect us willingly, share their planet with us willingly. In fact, it gives them pleasure to do so. And they will be able to accommodate us all, our entire population, to live in complete independence," the captain said. "The world is ours, and its people are slaves. And all we have to do is show up," Spinks concluded. "Very well, then," said the captain. "I shall so inform the Emperor." And so she did, and the Emperor was pleased. "You and your crew have done well," Captain Bastet intoned the Emperor. "Our entire population will be leaving shortly and will land on all the fertile regions of the blue planet." "Meow! Meow!" saluted Captain Bastet, and with that she set the mother ship to self-destruct, and then dropped on her 4 cat feet onto the sand and walked into her new life on their new world. Their world. The moral of the story? Cats rule, while the rest of us drool. But what do you think, dear listeners? Are cats native to the Earth or space aliens? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And stay safe, stay subscribed, ring the bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos, and feel free to share this video and any of my videos with anyone you please. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring such cryptids as the Night Floaters, werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. So again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,500 subs in 2022. And a special thank you to listener Mayukhi Khan for providing me with today's story idea. Thanks, Mayukhi. Till midnight. Cheers. Pictures used in today's video, courtesy of Pix here, that's PX here, while the music was The Haunting Aftermath by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod.